Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today in the Dungeon Dive, we are taking a look at Dungeon Hoard. Dungeon Hoard is a game created by Ernest Formosa, and this game is available on the Gamecrafter, and it was actually provided to me by the Gamecrafter as a review copy. So Dungeon Hoard allows you to build your own lair and hire creatures to overcome invading adventurers. Place traps, secret doors, and riddles to avoid entry into your treasure room. The first player to hoard 3 full treasure chests wins the game. That's right. So if someone else is ahead of you, do something about it. So Dungeon Hoard is a game in the Dungeon Keeper vein. In this game, the players are playing as dungeon keepers. They are building a dungeon and populating it with dungeon upgrades, with various kinds of rooms and traps and creatures in order to stop the adventuring parties from entering their treasure room and stealing their treasure. Along the way, the players want to defeat the adventurers in order to get their loot and add it to their own hoard. And as you gain treasure, you will start filling up your treasure chests, and you have to fill up 3 treasure chests to win the game. So unlike the vast majority of the games I cover on the Dungeon Dive, Dungeon Hoard is not a solo game, and I don't think it plays very well solo, even if you were to come up with some solo rules. Dungeon Hoard has a strong take that vibe, and it really needs that to succeed. I am, however, liking the game enough as I'm playing it as kind of two-handed just to get the idea of the game to take it to my next game group when we have a nice casual night, because I think the game will be a lot of fun. So let's take a look here. I have 1 player set up here and I have 1 player set up down there. We'll take a look at the second player in just a minute. But at the beginning of the game, you're going to deal out to each player a starting dungeon. And this is just theme. This is just a starting card. So we have the caves here. Player 2 here was the ancient temple. And then we have the evil castle and the catacombs. And then each player is also going to take a treasure room. And this is going to be the last room in their dungeon. As you build new dungeon rooms, you slide the treasure room down. And each dungeon can have up to 5 rooms built in the dungeon. You will also each player will start the game with a single treasure sack, and that will go in the treasure room. You need to get, I believe it's 3 treasure sacks, 3 loot stacks in order to create 1 treasure chest. And again, you're trying to get 3 treasure chests. Let me just make sure that here, 5. So you need 5 loot bags to make a treasure chest. So you'll need 15 loot bags to win the game. So in the game, there is a deck of dungeon cards, and these dungeon cards are what you're going to be playing in your tableau to build out your dungeon. And these dungeon cards have a variety of different things. Let's take a look at some of the things here. So one of the main things we have are various rooms. And your dungeon can have up to 5 rooms. During your build phase, you can build 1 room, or you can also take away a room. So you can kind of reconstruct your dungeon. So we have things like the strategy room, and some of the rooms will have various elements and various things that will affect the gameplay, such as this strategy room. During the build phase, you can discard a card from your hand and draw another dungeon card. Or the mines here, when you play this card, take 1 loot bag. So you would actually be able to, this is kind of like a mine here. Maybe some of your minions are working in the mine and you build the mine, and then you can add a loot bag to your treasure room. We also have creatures, and creatures are played above the room cards, and the creatures are designed to kill the adventuring parties that are trying to steal your loot. And as you kill adventurers, you gain a certain number of spoils to add to your treasure room. Some creatures need water, so you'll need something like an underground lake to play them. Certain creatures will have other requirements. Some creatures cost loot in order to play them, but those creatures are usually pretty powerful, and so they'll have a lot of stopping power. We have creatures like Fufu the Giant or the Minotaur. We have creatures like the Genie in the Lamp, and a lot of the creatures do have their own special abilities that will help you overcome the adventurers and help make your dungeon stronger. We also have dungeon upgrades, and these are cards that are played below your dungeon cards, and those make each room stronger, and those impede the progress of the heroes of the adventuring party. Now, sometimes you don't want to impede the adventurers because you want the adventurers to meet and attack your creatures so your creatures can kill them and you can get your loot bags. That's really one of the only ways to get loot bags. My second player down here, we'll take a look at their dungeon in a minute, but I have a strategy down there where I am using some dead ends in order to keep the adventurers out of my dungeon while I am building up my dungeon and making it stronger to protect it. So there is some strategy in how you build your dungeons in phases. You might want to take one phase at the beginning of the game and then work into a second phase and work into a longer strategy. But we have things like traps. So traps can be played. Dark corridors. If you play traps in a dark corridor, then they are more powerful. We have the impossible riddle. This is a dungeon upgrade. Retreat, prevent passage to the next room if the group has a wizard or a bard, or if the group has a total will value of 5 or more, then they understand the riddle and they can bypass it. You can force the adventurers to eat tasty poisonous mushrooms and so on. The final kind of card in the dungeon deck are the immediate cards. And this is where the take that elements come into play. So we will have various kinds of potions, such as a healing potion. So you can heal an adventurer that maybe is going through a competitor's dungeon in order to make them stronger so they have a better chance of reaching your competitor's loot bags. Maybe they find they managed to hide the stash, so you can hide your loot. So if an adventurer gets to the end into your treasure room, you can hide your stash so they can't get it. Here we have scary background music, so you can play this to add 2 stress to the room, thus making the room more powerful and possibly defeating an adventurer. Or maybe we have a handy dungeon map. The adventurers skip directly to the treasure room. So if one of your opponents had a really strong dungeon out, you could play this dungeon map on an adventuring party entering their dungeon, thus allowing them to reach the treasure room. So all kinds of cool little effects here and powers and different rooms and traps and all kinds of neat things. As you can tell, the game, it does have a strong sense of humor. It's a humorous game. It's pretty lighthearted, but I think there's also a lot going on that makes it pretty interesting. So at the beginning of the game, you will start with a hand of 7 dungeon cards. Each phase, you will draw 1 dungeon card. Then you go into the build phase where you can build 1 room or attach upgrades and creatures. And then after that, you go into the event phase. And the event phase, there is an event deck. And during the event phase, you will draw 1 event. A lot of the events will have a dungeon crawl event. And this is where you will draw adventurers to come in and raid your dungeon. And hopefully your dungeon is strong enough to prevent them from reaching your treasure room. Sometimes the events will be other things, such as Hear Ye, Hear Ye. So this is an event that says, keep this card next to your lair entrance. The next time you are required to draw adventurers, you need to draw 1 extra adventurer. So the adventurer party will be different. But there are various kinds of things in this event deck, such as mines. Your creatures might demand a pay raise, so you have to pay them more. They might mutiny on you. You have a chickenpox outbreak, share for the common evil, the perfect plan, draw 2 extra dungeon cards. Hey, that's pretty cool. You might have a ceiling collapse, planning authority of enforcement. So all kinds of neat things, all kinds of neat little monkey wrenches to add to the dungeon event phase. After the dungeon event phase, you go on to the secure loot phase, and this is where you win the game. At the secure loot phase, you total up all of your loot bags. If you have 5, you can trade those in for a treasure chest. As soon as you have 3 treasure chests, you win the game. So let's talk a little bit about the event phase here with an adventuring party. So let's say that it was this player's turn and they drew this adventuring party as an event. So start a dungeon crawl with 3 adventurers. Okay. However, they have this Hear Ye card, so they were going to have to draw 4 adventurers or 4 adventurer cards because not every card in the adventurer deck is an adventurer. Some of these are level up cards that make the adventurers stronger. So let's draw 4 cards and see what we are facing here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have a Foolish Courage. The adventurer gains a +2 will. So this is an adventuring upgrade, okay. We have a female cleric, so that's going to be an adventurer, and it is also buffed up and leveled up. So our female cleric is leveled up, so she will gain a +1 power and a +1 will. She's also buffed up, so she'll gain 2 more power. And she's also has Foolish Courage, and she'll gain a +2 will. So overall, this cleric here has a power of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and has a will of 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this human cleric will go through room by room, trying to work her way through the dungeon. So she comes to the strategy room. The strategy room has some zombies. So first she's going to have to face off against the zombies. Zombies are very slow and will not deal their damage if the adventurers have enough power to defeat them. So usually in combat, damage is dealt simultaneously, but here the zombies are slow. So we look at the cleric's power is 3, 4, 5, 6. She was able to defeat the zombies. The zombies don't do their damage back to the cleric, so the zombies are defeated. However, we also have here a dungeon upgrade, and this is Tasty Poisonous Mushrooms. Unless there is a druid or ranger in the adventuring party, each adventurer will eat a mushroom and suffer 2 damage. Discard this card if the mushrooms have been eaten. So she's going to take 2 damage. So actually she'll lose this +2 power card. So she no longer has that +2 power card. Okay, so she's bypassed all of those, everything in that room. Now she goes on to the next room, which is a dark corridor. And the dark corridor has a goblin mob. The goblin mob gets a +2 power if there is a boss creature in the lair. I don't have a boss in my lair, so the power here is 2. Okay, so she has a +1, so she's going to lose that +1, and she'll lose an additional 1. So the human cleric has 1 life left, but she defeated the goblin, and so on. And if the hero can make her way all the way to the treasure room, she will steal that loot, thus preventing this player from stepping towards victory. Okay, so I slid player 2's tableau up onto the camera here. They are playing in the ancient temple, and their dungeon here has a labyrinth. So the labyrinth will prevent kind of dumb heroes from finding the exit. The heroes need a collective will of 2 or more in order to find their way through the labyrinth. However, the labyrinth has a dead end. So it's a very complex labyrinth with no exit. However, if the group has a rogue, a wizard, or a dwarf, then they do find the end. So I placed that there to kind of give me some time to prevent the adventuring party from moving in as I develop the dungeon further down the line here. I have a strategy room, and the strategy room also has a dead end. So this dungeon keeper was really into dead ends at the beginning of the dungeon in order to buy some time. Then we have an underground lake, and the underground lake has water, so I could place this crocodile here, which needs water. So that will hopefully guard my treasure room. So now let's play another turn here. So in my hand right now, I have a room. I have an immediate play. So play this to prevent entry into your lair. So you can just say, nope, my dungeon is closed. I have a Hide the Stash and a Potion of Godly Might. At the beginning of your turn, you will draw a dungeon card. I have the Alluring Siren, needs water. Before combat starts, choose a male adventurer with a will of 2 or less. This adventurer will attack his own party and will be discarded, defeated after combat. But this Alluring Siren costs 1 loot bag to play, so I'm going to hold on to her, put her in my party now. I think I will add the throne room to my dungeon, so I'll move my treasure room down and I'll put the throne room there. And hopefully at some point I can draw a boss card, because if I put a boss here, the boss will get a +1 power. So I think that's my build phase there. So now I will go on to the event phase. We've already seen some adventurers. Let's see something else here. Most of the events are adventurers. So here we go, the Scrying Orb of High Definition. You may look at the cards in the hand of all of your opponents. Hey, that could give you some information. and help you plan your strategy accordingly. Overall, I think Dungeon Hoard is a pretty fun game. I wish there was more of a solo mode. I would love to play this game solo because I like the humor, I like the look, I like the theme, I like the idea. But it really is strongly needs that take that element to really shine. And I know some people don't like take that in games because they can feel it's a little bit mean-spirited. But I think the overall tone of Dungeon Hoard is really comical and it's funny and it looks nice. And so I don't think it gets too mean. And I also don't think it will suffer from the same kind of issues that a game like Munchkin suffers from, where there's so much take that it prevents the end of the game from ever triggering. And games of Munchkin always start off fun. I love the first hour of Munchkin. I hate the last 4 hours of Munchkin. But Dungeon Hoard seems like a really fun game to play with a group of lighthearted gamers who just want to have a good thematic time. And I'm really looking forward to bringing this to my casual game group because I think it'll fly. I think it'll be a hit. The rules are well written. Everything seems pretty straightforward. All in all, this is a really well-designed game for the Gamecrafter. I could see this being a really strong prototype for Ernest Formosa to shop around. And I think this game would be picked up because it's small. It's just a bunch of cards, a few tokens. I think the right publisher could really make this game work. So, all right, you guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed taking this look at Dungeon Hoard, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.